Your data has secrets. Secrets that could change everything if you only knew where to look. Welcome to the Data Secrets Podcast. Welcome to the Data Secrets Podcast, where we uncover how business leaders crack the code, find truth in their data, and turn insight into action. Today we have an amazing analytics leader, Noelle Butler. Noelle, welcome.
Thank you, Nathan. I'm excited to be here and excited to talk about my journey.
Awesome. Well, so you started as an accountant in home healthcare, counting beans, and you worked your way into business analytics.
Yeah.
And now you're a vice president of product management at JPMorgan Chase,
Yes.
leading the development of enterprise data products, which I'm super excited about. First of all, amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Second of all, what's your secret sauce for our listeners?
Yeah. I was thinking about things that I always share and recommend to others kind of when they're on their journey. What I always focus on, what's my secret sauce, is really two simple things. One is learning the business. No matter where you work, the business, the industry, how they make money is going to be different, but the principles stay the same. But I feel like in order to be successful, it's really learning the business. What do we do? How do we make money? But then the other one I always come back to is relationship management. If you have good relationships with your stakeholders, if you have good relationships with your team, then you can all come together and get things done. And I think I've noticed that that's the most important, really, one of the biggest things in my career and like why I've been successful and why I am where I am today.
That's amazing. Okay, so learn the business and build relationships.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Thank you. Yeah. I find building relationships, I mean, I have stories, but when you finally find that like common ground with someone, whether it's personal or business, like you really just kind of take off and both of you can work together to get things done.
Yeah, totally. My father-in-law, he says that all the time. He's been a consultant basically his whole career, and he'd always say, how does the company make money? Because like if you can figure that out, then the reality is that exchange of money is an exchange for value, right? And so it's really it's a highlighter to help you identify, okay, where does the business create value for its customers?
Yeah.
And if you can identify that, and then all of the people, processes, technology that go into making that happen, then you get pretty close to the action. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. It is it's something I struggled with relying on at first when like you were talking about my career jumping from home health to a big bank. And I knew that business inside and out when I was at home health, but I really just relied on my skill set when I first joined the bank and relying on my skill set and making relationships with people. Then that knowing the business eventually came and just became an easy piece. So,
yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, some industries are harder to jump into. You jumped out of an industry, healthcare, that's hard to jump into for other people. Financial services, I worked at Equifax for 4 years, and it took me a little bit to understand, like, wait, so we're calculating scores on people so we can decide if banks are gonna give them money. The banks give us their data. We score it and give it back to them and sell them for both services. That's amazing. What a business model.
yeah. It is interesting, but we have that in home health too. So.
Oh yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm excited to dive into your data secrets. I mean, you have a wealth of experience, and I'd love for you to be able to share it here. And so, so the Data Secrets podcast, it's all about we want to hear stories about uncovering insight and turning, you find something in the data and you turn that into business impact, you turn that into action. And so I am curious, let's go back to your time in home health first, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
And maybe give us a little context about, what is that business? What are some of the different data sources? How did you kind of like, what were some experiences that you had leveraging data, moving from accounting into business
Mhm.
analytics? Where would
Yeah.
you like to start with that?
The business itself was home healthcare, which is nurses visiting clients in their home.
Hmm.
The model did expand to becoming partners with hospitals and having joint ventures, but the meat of it is we want our clients at home. They do better recovering from their injury, their illness, whatever it is, when they're home. The data was in its infancy stages,
Hmm.
but also we had a lot of smart people behind the scenes, like building data models the way that they should be. So we pulled from Oracle. We weren't, when I was there, we weren't on the cloud yet. We had, a system for HR, like Workday. So that was like our employee revenue, budgeting, all of that, all the financial stuff plus employees. We had one system that, if you can believe it or not, was made from the old like DOS system, like the blue screen
Oh, yeah.
with the text. That was our main healthcare system created by the owner and his brother. And I remember when I was leaving, they were still using it. They kept trying to find replacements, but it was so customized that it did everything we needed, even though it was built in this old structure.
Yeah.
But then we also had newer systems to connect to that were used across hospitals and so on and so forth. So our biggest issue that was like a day-to-day issue in these offices was figuring out how to match a client with an employee and what time could they do it during the day, what days of the week, did they
Yeah.
need just an hour or two. um, this was an interesting problem to solve. There was like internal hackathons to try and figure out. It was fun. But the main issue was you would think that, hey, this is a pediatric client. I need a pediatric nurse, someone who handles kids,
Hmm.
as a nurse for kids. Well, that client has a dog, and the perfect nurse for the situation is allergic to dogs, so she can't go there. So it's not just skill set and location and timing. There's all these other factors that went into it. And really, what was interesting that we found was the offices that employed these nurses, they had all that in their head, right? There were some notes in the employee file and client file if they were allergic to dogs or not, or cats or whatever the
Hmm.
preference was. But a lot of it was they just knew it. So how do we make that visible, and how do we automate matching clients and employees? So that just takes a lot of time, and it's very like person specific. So what we found is we started bringing in those like descriptions in the data and trying to parse things out. And at the time, I mean, we were using what's called Microsoft Power Pivot. Now people start to use like Power Query. It was like what's behind Power Query. So that was our data prep tool. And having to bring in all of this client data, all of this employee data, and like how could we build a solution in Tableau that these service offices could use? Because there was about, I think, like 3,000 service offices at the time across the United States. And how
Well,
could we help these case managers figure this out? And so I'm sure it's way past where it is today, but being part of the first iteration, they created master employee dimensions, master customer dimensions, like all of the standard data modeling. Um, and then I was able to actually ingest that and use that in Tableau. And so a lot of it was parsing out the location, the age ranges, and the preferences. But we kind of started with the basics. Like this is a like client who just needs basic like needs. So they don't need an RN coming into their house. We started classifying things and started
hmm.
making like matching based off of roles. So we had these roles of types of clients and types of nursing, and then also location based, and then schedule. So we started building all these things into the system. The very first iteration was Tableau dashboard map. Um, and we use specific shapes for the clients and specific shapes for the employees.
Nice.
And as you zoomed in on your office, you could also then filter down to your caseload and see like the employees and clients on a map so they could see physically where they are. And then we could start using these matching logistics in the background to match them together. So they could figure out, all right, here's this client, and these are like the appropriate employees for them. And so there were drop downs for client and employee, and then they would use their system if they needed to look up the ID. But generally, again, they knew a lot of those things. So that was one of the biggest, like, cross the entire company issue that affected
Yeah,
the bottom line. It affected their day to day, and that was like a really cool solution to work on.
that's awesome. So effectively, you have demand for
Mm-hmm.
like clients that need to be seen. You have supply of people who can go see patients. Yeah.
Yes.
And and you're trying to match supply and demand at scale.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
effectively you were creating tools for the local people to help
Mm-hmm.
kind of make those assignments, and then they would, I guess in some other system, they would then go say, okay, nurse A is going to go see patient B on this day at this time, and they kind of block that in, and now they see that nurse
Yes.
A has her morning booked, but the afternoon is not. And so like they kind of like systematically go through and they're like, okay, well, what would be the next good house for them to go drive to?
Yeah.
That whole
Yeah.
thing. And that's where the map came into place. Okay.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it was very basic at that time. I think we're on like Tableau 8 or 9, I don't know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you and I
But
started in Tableau at the same time.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's been, it was just kind of that first stepping stone. I know I've heard through the grapevine now they have applications where nurses can sign up and are doing this a little bit smarter. But, for what the tools that we had at the time, that was a pretty cool project to work on and really like widespread. Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah, it's funny. I at the same time was doing a very similar kind of thing, but totally different application. It
Mm,
was employee mapping around where they work
mm,
and doing like drive time analysis and seeing like, oh, if we move the office to the suburbs, then
mm-hmm,
all these people's commute is going to double. And so then
mm.
like there's a potential for attrition and stuff like that. So um, it's
Interesting.
fun. That's the
Yeah.
beauty of analytics. It's like there's a bunch of different ways to do everything, and then also there's a lot of similarities between solving different problems. So
It's very true. It's very true. I appreciate you calling that out because it is when it boils down to it, it's supply and demand, to your point, right? And so supply and demand looks different everywhere.
yeah. So were there any other either really like big impactful projects that you worked on in home
Mm.
health, um, or do you want to move on to banking?
There was another like smaller scale story that I found
Okay.
interesting with home health that was related to our staff, so our nursing, and we found that we had very strict training and development. So there's tons of small home healthcare companies and other businesses out there. We were pretty large and we had a pretty good set of like quality and standards. And so there was this robust rubric. And if you were a nurse that came in, even if you had these certifications and trainings, you have to come in and be certified and trained a certain way by us. They found that they would go through onboarding, and onboarding took about 60 days and they would drop off. They would never bill a shift. So we spent all this money training them and then they just dropped off because training took so long. That's what they were
Mhm.
finding. And so we wanted to figure that out. We have this inkling, this onboarding problem, this onboarding program is like taking way too long. What if we reduce it to 30 days? Will we get more people hired so that we can bill our clients and serve our clients? And so that one was an interesting one because there was already like a hypothesis. And so we used the data to really track and confirm that if we made this change, did it really
Mhm.
make that impact? And so it did. I mean, it was pretty cool to watch. You could actually like look at the retention trend, and like, or actually, I'd say like the turnover going down. So
Oh
it was
wow.
cool to also see proof in the data of something that of like a change in the process. So I thought that was another fun little project that we worked on too.
Interesting. Yeah, uh so the nurse training took too long, so they didn't ever
Mm,
actually make any money, or they just got bored.
correct. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay. So
they were getting paid, but not at their like high rate. They were getting paid.
uh
We were paying them. We weren't making money off of them because there was no revenue yet. We were
right,
just
yeah.
training them. So it really was on the business's profitability, but then also we couldn't serve a client. So now we're losing business if we can't serve them. So
So
it
the
bottom
solution
line profitability. Yeah.
was the solution to just make the training shorter?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. It kind of
Yeah.
reminds me of the like Facebook's, like when they first launched, like one of their early, like as they were growing, what they figured out was like if you can get somebody to have like some number of friends in the first week that they're on the platform, then they'll stick around. And
Oh
so
wow.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Very cool.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And but that's such an impactful thing, because I imagine like recruiting all of those nurses to come on, spending a month or two with them, only to have like all that cost and or that investment in those people
Yeah.
just go poof out the door.
Yep.
You probably
Yep.
just trained your competitor, and
Hmm.
perfect. And so
Right.
yeah, that's a huge impact. Yeah, and then also it's a win-win-win, because it's like the
Mm.
nurses get to make money faster, they get trained faster. Was there any downside to that? Because like oftentimes, you can optimize for one metric, and then
Yeah.
you cause something else to happen, right? There's like second order effects. And so did you also monitor, like, I don't know,
Like
issues that might
care
have shown up
outcomes.
because of they weren't fully trained, or that whole thing?
Yeah, I don't remember that we had like metrics related to like the outcomes of maybe the patients.
Mm-hmm.
We really just focused on the onboarding, but I think what they found is that the skill set, like what's the minimum amount of time that they could kind of train this skill set. And
Mm-hmm.
so it really depended on the level too. So for certain levels, they could decrease it, and for other levels, maybe they couldn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't remember if they took it that much further though.
What were some of those like key metrics that told you that the business was doing well? Or like that the
Hmm.
service. So I imagine there's like, obviously there's revenue and there's
Mm-hmm.
profit and blah blah blah. But like in the execution of the service, um, like were you tracking patient satisfaction, or
Yeah.
like what are some of those metrics that you guys
I
looked
get,
up?
I mean, patient satisfaction is a huge one. There are always like surveys going out. You can also tell based off of, I mean, there's insurance metrics that there's basic metrics saying this client should be in your care for, let's say, 6 weeks, right? Based off of this surgery they had or this injury they had. So if you're going over 6 weeks, is that an indicator of they're not getting enough care, or an indicator
Yeah.
that there maybe we didn't calculate this correctly? So
Mm-hmm.
there's always that metric of time of care, and so that was a big one to track
Mm-hmm.
because you get it, you kind of have these standards, and you can look at the time when you start actually seeing them, how many visits you're seeing them in within that time too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you start to look at those visit metrics really.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're working on a project right now that's a readmission dashboard. It's on
Mm,
the payer side, and so they care a
yeah.
lot about, hey, did we solve this the first time?
Hmm. Yep.
And if people get readmitted, then it's like, maybe we didn't. So
Yeah.
that's interesting.
I remember
Yeah,
that.
it's almost like adherence to some expected outcome,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, are you not changing their bandages effectively, or now they're back in the hospital,
Yeah.
or it took longer to recover.
Yeah.
That is fascinating.
It is.
Um, awesome. Okay, so you were in home health care for
Mm-hmm.
how long? Like 10 years or something?
12 or 13,
12 or
somewhere around
13. Wow.
there. Yeah.
Um, and then you heard the call of banking. What talk us through your why'd you leave, or like what drew you towards Chase? I mean, Chase is an amazing
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
We bank with them.
So do
Big fan.
I.
Especially after the like SVB stuff. It's like,
hmm
okay, what's the biggest bank possible?
Yeah.
The safest place. But yeah, what drew
Yeah.
you there?
The technology and the opportunities. I really, being in healthcare, like you said, is maybe hard to get into. There's like not as many opportunities there. But also, when you're in a technical job, you don't want your skills to get stale. And I just thought it was my time to grow and just wanted to take on a new challenge. I feel like I knew the business so well, and so how to challenge myself. And so those are my biggest two things. I want more technical skills and I want to learn something new.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that
great
was my
reasons.
biggest drive. Yeah, keep learning. That's my biggest thing. Challenges
Yeah,
don't have to be the next step up. They could be lateral and new data, new industry, new client. So
yeah.
that was my
And
my move.
and so when did you join, and what role did you step into, and what was that transition experience like?
Yeah, it was I joined in December 2020. Um and the experience was remote onboarding was not easy. I remember like the first day during COVID, you're not in an office, very different atmosphere, but I
Yeah,
will say everyone was great at reaching out on my team, set up time with me to introduce themselves. Um, we had like great team engagement people who would like set up meetings and just introduce ourselves and have fun. And so it was an interesting experience, obviously, because it was during COVID, so it's just very different.
yeah,
But remote work wasn't hard for me in general. Like I can handle that. I could, onboard myself and get myself familiar. So, I came in as just a developer. I was excited to just be a high level individual contributor. Um, I took over the area. I was assigned to the area for, we're in community banking, consumer and community banking. So, like you said, like you have your bank with them. But my specific area that I'm assigned to is auto loans and leases. So, not just joining a bank, I now have to learn about the auto industry. So that was like one task in the beginning. And then from there, within 6 months, I was asked to lead the team, lead the book of work, lead product updates to the CFO and the CEO of auto.
wow,
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, but it also wasn't something I was unfamiliar with. I did a lot of that at my prior role.
yeah,
So it wasn't that scary. Like I had that experience, luckily. Um, but it was tough because I was still 6 months new to the role. Felt like I just started feeling good about delivering dashboards and data, and then thrown into that mix. But from there, it just took flight. I got to work on like more initiatives across the department and not just for auto. And I got to, and now I am leading not just our dashboard side, but I'm leading auto as a whole. So I'm leading our data and our tech side as well. So now I get like the full product under me. And so, it's been an interesting journey. And I just hit 5 years on Monday. So that
wow,
was a shock to the system.
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
awesome. So, along your journey, were there any kind of data secret stories where you and the team dug something up that was really interesting, and kind of followed the breadcrumbs, and then made some sort of a business impact?
You know, it's I don't want to say it's not as fun as home health, but I would say it's very financially driven.
Okay.
Um, the team that we're in we're serving the finance team. We're serving financial planning and analysis, and so it's definitely been an adventure trying to push like the envelope and the data. Like I feel like in finance, especially P&A, they're looking at budgets and forecasting. They're iterating as much as they can. They're doing they know the data, or they're trying to confirm things that they already know. Um, so uncovering things has been a little bit different. But I will say that we've had some cool projects related to data for our like our partners, because we have to provide, like, we have contractual obligations. We have certain manufacturers that we are their bank. And so if you go to buy, I always say Subaru, one of our longest customers, you don't use your own bank and you go in there, it's Chase. So your loan's gonna be from Chase. And so what I found that was interesting about that data is there's like very specific contractual metrics that they have to follow. What rates are you giving your consumers, like auto buyers, when they walk in the door? Chase will only allow certain ones. And then also just maintaining the relationship is really important with that, the data and um, how they use it. And so one of the biggest projects, I wouldn't say we uncovered like a secret, but was giving them access to that data and those
Mhm.
dashboards. So we had all these internal dashboards and we're just exporting them into 50 to 100 page PDFs.
Oh goodness.
Um, don't we love a PDF? And so all this like fun work going into this PDF. And then
Yeah.
we worked with Tableau, the vendor, obviously, and they said, hey, we do this for a lot of other companies where we just you can turn the dashboard on externally. So that was a cool little project to do, because we were able to find a solution, not make something too complex that was internal. We're able to add value to these customers now. So now we're not just giving you this PDF, we're giving you this portal, and you can go find this information however you want. We hope to eventually add more insights to it. And it started a whole model for the business. So like no one was doing this. Like we were the first to do it in the
Very
business.
cool.
So now we have other lines of businesses looking into it to serve their customers. So at some point, maybe it's a revenue model too. Maybe it's something they start charging for when you have,
Yeah.
you're giving these reports externally now. It's like an additional benefit. So there's lots of opportunities there. So I thought that was just like a fun project. And it wasn't really a data secret, but I think it's just something else that we get into, and solutions we have aren't just always like within the data itself.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, that's an amazing, empowering thing that you did for your partners, right? And so it's
Mm-hmm.
like, um, the whole like data democratization, diatribe that everyone was chanting 10 years ago
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. I mean, you guys did that. Basically, there were hidden secrets that were on your side. It's kind of the
Mm-hmm.
information asymmetry is like, we've got all the stuff over here, and in order for us to tell you about it, we have to, here's a PDF, that took a bunch of manual effort, and actually took probably the analytics that you had built, like really cool dashboards, and made them kind of like less powerful because you can't
Yeah.
click and you can't drill down or whatever.
Yep.
Um, I've been part of these projects before where it's like, okay, we have our server in house, and so actually, I do want to go like for just a minute for
Yeah.
our Tableau people. I am just curious, like how you did it. Like, were you guys on server on prem, and then you decided, hey, we need a separate server? Did you use a separate site? Did you Tableau
Yeah.
Cloud? Like,
Yeah.
what was
Jumping
the?
into like the specifics, we were in between on-prem and cloud. We're now on
Hmm.
cloud, but when we started this 2 years ago, we were on-prem.
Hmm.
So in order to do this, they had to be on cloud. So now we had to sign up for cloud and we had to use it. We did have to create a new site. So we have internal and external. Um,
Nice.
so that was I was worried about that, because are we now publishing to two areas? Do we have to worry about, if I published here but didn't publish here? And we have solutions for that to make it
Hmm.
seamless now, but they have their own site. We have a little portal. So if you're external, you put your name, you put your work email address, and then it'll go to like our Tableau team internal to permission them for like the right brand. Um, and so yeah, we had all of those kind of like standard rules that we use internally and did the same thing for external.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And the content, were you partitioning it by partner where it's like Subaru has a project, or Subaru, are
Mm.
you doing row level stuff where it's like, if I'm part of Subaru, then I only see Subaru's data, but I'm looking at the
Mhm.
same dashboard as GM?
So good question. These dashboards are very specific for each partner, so they all have their own projects. They may have similar metrics, but their thresholds and everything are very different. And then they like
Yeah.
the data behind it is like so scrutinized and very detailed and very different for each partner.
Okay.
So unfortunately, we couldn't just build one
Well,
dashboard and have a drop down for row level security to make it
yeah.
easy. But
Yeah, I mean, the three reasons why, I mean, you checked all three boxes. It's like the people want different information.
Mhm.
The way we present it is different, and the underlying data is different. So
Yep.
therefore, a data product, for to serve everyone is not really on the table. So
No.
that makes
Very true.
sense.
Why make it
Um,
easy?
that's awesome. So that's actually a great segue.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about data product management with you because that is your title. It's a fascinating concept,
Yeah.
because I don't think a lot of people do it well. And some people don't do it at all. Um, so I see, and actually we didn't talk about your data horror story. I do want to talk about that too. But um, so in the data product management world, it's like on one end of the spectrum, you
Hmm.
have uh, order takers. So it's kind of like,
Yeah.
hey, just the business says, build me this, build me this, build me this, build me this, right? And you're just like reacting, right? And so this is kind of like the traditional
Yeah.
IT model,
Hmm.
which, it works in some situations, but for
Yeah.
analytics, um, I'm pretty passionate about the fact that we should not be order takers. We should actually be partners with the business. Um,
Hmm.
so on the other end of the spectrum, you would maybe, and I don't know what spectrum this is, but
Yeah.
uh, you could imagine a world where I, as the analytic product manager, just feel like I know everything about the business and I just give them stuff. One end of the spectrum, I'm giving them exactly what they want. I filled out
Hmm.
their tickets. On the other end of the
Hmm.
spectrum, I'm giving them exactly what I think they want.
Yeah.
Uh, and really neither is correct, right? It's kind of like there's this middle spot where it's like,
Yeah.
and maybe I'm stealing your thunder, sorry, but
No, you're fine.
uh, I feel like there's this middle area where we collect requirements and we understand what the business needs, and we work with them to create the right solution. It's kind of like, um,
Hmm.
the one metaphor I've been using recently is if you take a chisel. So a
Hmm.
chisel is sharpened on one side. It's almost like a blunt instrument, right?
Yeah.
And so like on our two ends of the spectrum, it's like we've got the chisel on one end, or it's a chisel on the other end, where we're just kind of like doing one or the other. But like in the middle, we sharpen the blade on both sides, and we end up with
Mm.
like a way better, more effective tool.
Yeah.
Um, so,
I like that
anyways,
analogy. Maybe using it soon.
yeah. So I'm curious. We'll save the data horror story for after this section, but so
Yeah.
so stay tuned for the data horror story. But let's talk about data product management for a second. So like
Yeah.
how do you define it? How do you think about it? What's your philosophy?
Mm. My philosophy is, I'm stealing this from a colleague, but we're not delivering just data. We're delivering solutions. And we're also building something you want people to rely on. If they don't rely on it, what does it mean? What are you working
What's the
towards?
point?
So,
Yeah.
so those are like my biggest, like I guess, philosophy and items I think of, and what product management is. You want to help every level make a decision, whether you're an analyst, a financial analyst, and you're trying to help your boss answer a question about why a certain line of business wasn't profitable, or you're the CEO asking, should we renew this partnership with this, auto lender. Um, those are big questions to ask and need different levels of data. And if it's not reliable and we don't deliver a solution for them, that's just how I think about it. We want to reduce uncertainty. You want to have that decision support available. And so that's what I think about data product management. Obviously, there's a lot of very, very technical guidelines and different systems built when it comes to having official data product management. And that's what I found the difference going from healthcare to Chase. We have those guidelines, we have those roles and responsibilities. And before I didn't have those, but I was trying to operate like I did. So to your point, there's that struggle of who's building this. And if you don't put some ownership on the stakeholder, are they going to use it? Are they going to care about it? Are they going to have other people use it? Are they actually going to make decisions based off of it? So yeah, that's kind of like a long-winded way of saying it. But yeah, I think to your point, you need ownership of the data. You also need ownership by the stakeholders, and you guys need to work together. And I think that kind of brings me back to relationship management from the beginning and why it's so important.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so data product manager, data product owner. I've heard these titles before. Maybe for someone who's brand new to this concept, like what would you even define as the thing that we're managing? Like, what is a data product?
Oh, wow. That is very funny. We've been doing something in my current role defining data products. And I'm like, it just sounds so whimsical, right? Like, what is a data product?
Yeah.
What I found is it's like a curated set of data, or you could even just say like knowledge through data. And you're trying to, like this podcast, it's the case file. You're trying to solve a crime, right?
Yeah.
So I
Nice.
think managing and ownership related to that is really you're building this case file, you're understanding what the problem is. Um, and then from there, you're trying to figure out, do we have the data and how can we use it? So what's that feasibility of all of the technology that you have? Can you solve this problem, this crime, right? So I find it to be like ownership and management, like what is a data product? I think of I work in the auto line of business, so we have auto data, but we have auto financial data, we have auto competitive data, we have data related to rates that we give our customers, we have data related to profitability. So when we've been talking about product data projects, it's really auto as a whole, but then within auto, what's your decision that you're trying to support, or what problem are you trying to solve, and kind of look at the different types of data you have and like package that together so that the user can solve their problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think so like if we think about what is a product, right? Not even like
Mm-hmm.
a data product. So like Google says it's a it's there's a market, uh and it's basically anything that goes into that market to help solve a particular need, right? And so in our
Mm-hmm.
case, our market is our stakeholders, um and we're building things, dashboards, data processes, data
Yeah.
science models, data apps, those
Mm-hmm.
kind of things, right? That basically help our stakeholder achieve some goal, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think the interesting thing is like if you don't take that mindset with the dashboards you build, then you end up with
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of dashboards that get one or two views and then never get used.
Yeah.
Which
Agree.
that's the biggest bummer ever, right? You spend all this
Yeah.
time and effort, and it's like you build something that sits on the shelf. It's not fun. And
Agree.
so, yeah, I see data product management as an active way of like helping prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think, yeah, it's very true because our products can be a lot of different things. We happen to use Tableau, but we also have other reporting tools now like ThoughtSpot and Databricks. And so we've gone from, like I said earlier, we're not just dashboard team anymore. We're like a
Mm-hmm.
reporting, we're a solution team. Like,
Yeah.
what's your need? How do we solve it? Maybe we don't just need to use Tableau. Maybe it's something pretty simple. Um, and so, yeah, the products are definitely changing too.
Yeah. How do you guys organize from a team perspective
Hmm.
to kind of like you're a data product manager, you're like a so you're kind of like oversight. It are
Yeah.
there little pods like you all over the business,
Hmm.
or is it kind of a hub and spoke, or and then what does your team look like?
Yeah, it's my team looks like we are I'm the product like owner, manager. It's kind of used interchangeable
Mm-hmm.
of auto, and I have a team that is called our tech team. They build the data pipelines, like you said, they're very, very technical. They're using scripting language. They're building the data marts. They're doing all of the very technical work
Mm-hmm.
before we even ingest or consume it in reporting. And then within that team, we also have like business analysts. So they have the technical skills, they have the business skills, they can translate. So they help our tech team, they help our stakeholders and try and refine their requirements and make translate it between the two. And then we have our what used to be just dashboard team. It's now business intelligence team. Very specific on the reporting like solution, like the end result.
Okay.
So taking the requirements that the business analysts worked on with their stakeholders, working with the tech team to get that data available for us, and then the building the actual dashboard. So like the developers of our reporting. And so that's very systemic across our line of business. So our line of businesses, I should say. So
That
there's like
structure.
bank. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So like I have that in auto, and then you go to another product in Chase, and they
Mm-hmm.
have that same structure.
Oh, cool.
Um, and then it just keeps iterating. And so we call that product aligned. So everyone's under the auto product and they roll up to the auto product. So that's what we call product aligned. We used to be skills based when I started. I was
Mm-hmm.
only in the team for 2 months when that changed. But instead of me rolling up to and being aligned to everyone that does auto work, so like even the auto finance team, who are our stakeholders, I was in the dashboard development team. So all of us who develop dashboards were in the same team, and we were kind of contracted out. Like we would come back together on team meetings and stuff, but you would go to your stakeholder meeting for auto. And so I was only in that for a few months, but um, and now it's been product line, so that's how we're structured.
Yeah, and I guess the thought process behind that change was, hey, right now everybody's centralized and we're sending people out and they're coming back and there's just all this
Yeah.
like if we move the team inside the business line, then now they're closer to their stakeholder and the
Mm-hmm.
products that they develop are going to be more aligned with what that team needs.
Yeah.
And like the downside is maybe you're less connected to other people in the organization who do what you do, and so is there a
Yeah.
mechanism to like make sure that everyone who does like your team does, that
Hmm.
you're aligned on best practices and tooling and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that was the biggest concern and still is at times. We have a weekly what we call like cross LOB calls. So all of the like dashboard BI developers are on this call from the different lines of business and we kind of
Okay.
stay up to date, share best practices. If there's something that's going to affect, if someone sees an issue or finds something that affects them, um, hey, I think this might affect other people. It's kind of like that communication. So that has been the biggest one to stay engaged. And then we use Teams and things like that just to chat during the day or send
Hmm.
emails like, hey, I saw this. I don't know if this is going to be an issue for you, or hey, I did this cool new thing. Check out this dashboard I made. Like I'm really
Yeah.
excited to share it. So that was tough at first, but it having that weekly meeting and the Teams channel really helped foster that a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, because what you don't want is duplication of effort. So like if someone builds a data pipeline from some system, some loan
Mm-hmm.
system, right?
Yeah.
And you figured that out and you've got the data piping in and it's perfect. And then some other team is like, we need to get data from this loan system. You build it twice, right? And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what a waste, right? And so that's good that you guys have you, you have mechanisms at least in place to try to sync the team up.
Yeah.
All right, so let's hit your your data horror story. So, what's an
Mm.
example of a time when things didn't go perfectly?
Yeah, one that comes to mind is when I was in healthcare. We published data externally. So who are we would get questions from different newspapers or like digital news and different forums to highlight our business, and our business is in a lot of places. So depending on where we were, what state were we in, what newspaper was requesting it, what was the context behind it. There was one instance where we published, it's usually like the number of clients, number of employees, and like revenue. And you kind of truncate the data. So you're not giving the exact number,
Mm,
but a round up, round down. Um, so it's not exact because we weren't public, we were private. So we would give this snapshot out, and I remember running the numbers, and I remember it being wrong, right? So this is getting published. Think it was slightly higher. It was higher, and you don't want to inflate anything. And so I think, like, thankfully, where I worked for, who I worked with, it wasn't it was a big deal because it was published incorrectly, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, the world is ending, this job, you never gonna go anywhere, whatever. It really just set the tone for how do you handle something when it goes wrong, and really it's just accepting the mistake, um, identifying what you can do better, and so that actually create helped us create like a standard model for this intake. And
mm,
how do we define a client, how do we define an employee, questions to ask so that if we don't know what they want, what are
mm-hmm.
our standard questions to ask, like what state do you need this for, what county do you need this for, um, very specific. So it wasn't just a fire drill every time. So we would have
Yeah.
like a rubric of questions, we'd have a checklist, and we created defined ways to do all of those things. And so I remember we had like a spreadsheet at the time, and we'd be pulling from our data sources and these exact filters to use for certain instances and things like that. And so um, it was, you know, I was like very scared, I remember at first when that happened, but the outcome was like just made the system better. So that's where I try to learn from and teach everyone else too.
Nice. Yeah, so it sounds like you almost you created some processes and
Yeah.
it's almost like you created a data product for that to
Nice
solve that.
callback. Yeah, yeah, we
Yeah,
did. We
that's
did, we
awesome.
did. Yeah,
Cool.
thanks.
All right, so let's jump into our lightning round, our metric mystery theater. I love this section. First question, what's the weirdest metric that you've come across?
Maybe this is boring, but I really just want to say like number of dashboards.
Oh,
We have
no,
a
output.
dashboard for dashboards. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What's good about that number? Are more
Were,
dashboards good?
were you measured by number of dashboards?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
users and well, users as well, but we do look at the number of dashboards. It's very interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's if our listeners want to go back to episode 9 and hear from Nadim von Hedebrand, he's another data product manager, kind of evangelist for
Yeah,
that whole mindset.
yeah,
And Yeah, he's big proponent of outcome over output. Yeah, so like what is the outcome that we're driving?
Yeah.
Not the output, but that is a weird metric to be measured by because
Yeah.
not all dashboards are created equal. I say that
No.
once a week, I think, because a dashboard could
True.
take 20 minutes. It could take 2 weeks
Yeah.
or longer. So
Or more. Yeah.
just depends. But yeah, okay. So next one, what's a vanity metric that you've come
Mm.
across that you either secretly love or hate? Vanity metric being a metric that it makes you feel good when you look in the mirror, but
Mm.
doesn't really drive the needle.
Users, customers, subscribers, whatever you want to call it. It's just a number. What I love or hate, I dislike it because I think it's something to have a pulse on, but usually it's a denominator for something else to understand your cost, your profitability. I think it alone doesn't always tell you how your business is doing or what your outcome is.
Mm-hmm.
I like to use the example of, I pay for cable and internet and a phone. I don't have a landline. But when I called, they said it's cheaper if you do the triple package. All right, yeah, it's cheaper than me just doing Wi-Fi or cable. I, of course, I'm gonna do that. Why wouldn't I love to save money. And then, but what's really interesting about that people don't really think about is why are they doing that? Well, now they can count you as not just one customer for Wi-Fi, one customer for cable. You're a third customer. You're doing three products that they are selling. So that's why I think it's a vanity metric. I think it's just something
Yeah.
to try and like praise or celebrate, but like it's not really telling you what it means or what the business is doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. So how about a more important metric? So like what's your North Star metric, the one you'll never
Yeah.
stop tracking?
I know I hate to be boring, but profitability is just such a big one because there's revenue, and that's like the finance person in me. I know, it's boring, but I think profitability tells you a lot about the business, and I think that talking about the last one, the vanity metric, like you could have users grow, but your profitability stays flat because you made a big investment and you had a big expense that year, and you're not making as much money as you did the year before with less users.
Hmm.
So I think profitability is just huge. It's really only nothing else. Shouldn't say nothing else matters because I came from healthcare and we cared about our patients' outcomes, right? But the business can't survive if there's not profitability. We can't pay our employees. We can't pay the people that are out there doing the work if it's like a service type job. So I don't know. I just always feel like profitability is important, and um, everything else can maybe distort what is really like going on in the business.
Yeah. Yeah, I think profitability is interesting because it is one of those metrics that has like two sides of it that kind of
Mm.
lead you towards the right direction. It's like, are we creating value, revenue, um, in a way that's sustainable
Mm-hmm.
cost, right? Um, and yeah, it's a good one. It's
Yeah.
classic.
Classic.
All right, so let's, as we kind of move into our last section here to land the plane,
Yeah.
um, I need another metaphor for that, by the way. I say land the plane every time. Uh, but yeah, as we, enter our final chapter, our final case file of our conversation today.
Yeah.
Okay, so AI, obviously a big
Mm.
deal. Some people, especially in like the data community, some people are like, I've seen clients basically kicking the can, thinking AI will solve everything for them someday.
Mm.
I've seen people spend tons of money and get no value from it. I'm talking about like large deployment type stuff. Like
Yeah.
obviously ChatGPT is my best friend. But I mean, it was my IT guy this past week. That was really helpful. Um, but like, what are your thoughts on like on a bigger scale, like the impact of AI on the data like the people like us who live, work, breathe in the data community.
Yeah. My take on AI is usually a little bit more positive. I think something that's inherent in me is my adaptability for change, and I'm very flexible. Anytime my manager has changed, the organization has changed, the way we do things have changed, I just have this attitude of, all right, well, it's changing. Just learn it
Yeah.
and teach and use it and move on. You just got to adapt. So I am very lucky that that's a personality trait of mine. It's not for everyone. It change is really hard for some people, but I think it's no matter if it was AI, it could have been like a new technology. For example, we use Tableau. There's Power BI out there. There's other systems out there. What if the organization was all of a sudden like, hey, we're not going to use Tableau anymore. Everything's moving to Power BI because they're using their money to invest there. Well, that's what you got to do, right?
Mm.
So I feel like no matter what the change is, you just got to think about it on that scale with AI. Like, it's just going to be a new tool in your tool belt. You need to learn it, and if you don't, you may get left behind, especially in a technical field. So it's just don't be scared about it and just learn, listen to podcasts, because there's so many different points of view, whether it's extreme peril, like our world is going to be not be here in 5 years,
Yeah.
or really positive, like it's going to solve world hunger, cure cancer, so on and so forth. So I feel like my biggest takeaways are just change and adapt. And the only one example I'll kind of leave with is something I find. My mom's a nurse, and she's retired, but she always, I remember her saying, and this stuck with me, and maybe it's why I have this point of view, is she went from being in an operating room for years to then teaching and training and actually going into data. So she started doing data quality metrics related to it.
Oh, wow.
Um, but she was out of the operating room at that by the time she retired for like 14 years. She's like, I keep my license just so I have it. She does a certification every other year, but she's like, I couldn't go in that operating room. It's not just the technology, it's the technique that changes, it's the guidelines that change, it's the legalities that change, like number of people that should be in there, what instruments they use. So I think no matter where you are, there's going to be change, and we just got to treat AI like a new tool and just change that we got to get along with, and we got to move, use it to our advantage too.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I love a good positive outlook.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. I agree, and I feel similarly. Yeah, I'm excited to see what it does for us. If it means that
Yeah.
we have to make fewer clicks to build something
Mm-hmm.
that's beautiful and functional and impactful for the business, then
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
I agree.
But yeah, so Noelle, how should folks connect with you if they want to reach out to either learn more from you or uh, just connect?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, so you can look for me, Noelle Butler. And my company is JPMorgan Chase, so that's usually my tagline.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing your experiences with everybody. And yeah, for all of our data sleuths out there, keep searching. The answer is out there. You just got to keep digging. All right. That is the pod.